Hi, I'm Mauricio Schiller and you're listening to The Schillering Hub, a podcast gathering hospitality professionals from around the world to talk about what hospitality is and what it isn't, and their lives, the innovations, and the ideas that set some businesses apart and others not. We also talk about the future, the trends, and recently we embarked on a journey to search for happiness in hospitality. What makes hospitality a happy place? What are the hurdles that block happiness from happening? And what can we do to overcome them? I invite you to be part of this journey. Comment and send us a message of how our conversation impacts your day. Ask me a question or tell me a guest you'd like to listen to. We make this for you, so I hope you enjoy it. Hello everyone, Mauricio Schiller here, your host. You're listening to the Schillering Hub podcast, and we are searching for happiness in hospitality. So if you have an idea what the happiness in hospitality is, please send us a message, share with us. We would like to include you in the conversation as well. Today I have once again to talk to us Nah-Dja Tien from Vienna Hospitality, and a mentor that has been sharing a lot with us lately. Nah-Dja, welcome to the show once again.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
If you don't know Nah-Dja, please go back to our episode list. Last year we recorded a beautiful episode about Nah-Dja's life in hospitality. His great career, was awesome. And he participated with our learning webinar as well as a guest speaker. And we've been discussing what happiness in hospitality is in little short bits. But we also have a great episode about emotional intelligence with Nah-Dja and Vladika. But Nah-Dja, today we're gonna speak about a quite delicate subject because there's so many stigmas, so many things that people don't want to talk about. That is mental health awareness. What's your take in mental health awareness and how hospitality and mental health cross?
So I grew up in an environment where it's not my environment with my parents, but it was just never on the radar. In 90% of the hotels that I used to work in, mental health was never on the radar. And I think it's very important that we talk about it. We discussed very briefly in a previous episode, Mauricio, that if you give people the possibility to feel safe in the environment that they work in, and you are able to be open to any discussion related to mental health, I think you're already a very big step in the right direction. I think that COVID actually opened up a lot of minds in the industry and also in the younger generations that it should be, discussable. And unfortunately, I had to have an example. Somebody had to point out to me that when you break your arm, you go to a doctor and you fix it. But when you have mental health problems, and it could be because one of your loved ones passed away, sickness, there's many reasons. You also need to fix it. And if you're not able to open and not to be able to be honest about it, it becomes just a trauma that is just stuck, and then eventually it will explode.
Why do you think that there is such a big stigma when we talk about mental health?
Because I think a lot of people think when you talk about mental health, you don't think about that you're crazy. It's very bluntly said, and it's just my opinion, but not a lot of people are willing to say, hey, I have a mental problem, because it is somehow associated with very negative things. But I think it is changing, Mauricio. And I'm so happy that it is changing, that topics become discussable. HR big companies, they are definitely open for it. I had the privilege to work for a company in my previous job where even the topic of turning 50 is discussable, with a professional person. Because not everybody is ready to turn 50, to be really honest. So that was a very, very good, organized company. And the employee assistance program there was very advanced. But hotels, maybe the huge chains, that is something. But all the thousands and hundreds of thousands of smaller hotels, I think that the managers need to start to understand that mental health is a it's a topic and it needs to be addressed, which also means that you need to know something about it as a manager.
That's a good point, right? That's a good point, because my experience in the kitchen, at least, is any type of mental health was a weakness, right? Like you having a bad day or a mental or any type of being sad or anything like this was just pointed and laughed at as a weakness. Yeah, like you're bullied on it, and that's why it really shut so much that door. Like you don't want to expose and be laughed at because you are not feeling well. And I know that you supported a lot of people with your practices when you were a manager. So if we could get practical, like what type of supportive practices you think that you managers can give to teams that are or team members suffering from mental health?
First of all, you need to want to. You need to learn how to listen. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I am somebody that loves people in general. I think that when I see somebody, that I understand what this person is going through, positive or negative. And as a manager, I think you should really open yourselves up to the fact that people cannot smile 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a whole year. Yeah, we're in the hospitality industry, and one of the things, smile. As a manager, you need to give something to smile about. And this goes very far. This goes into the trust. This goes into the respect. It goes into the salary that you pay your team members. It goes into many things. And I think that the mindset shifts. When COVID came, what happened? Hotels, everything had to be closed down. Hotels were not able to pay the bills. And some of them closed down. Some of them had to let staff go. And those people that left did not return back into the industry. And now there is a lack of people. We are not able to get the amounts of people or the quality of the people that are needed into the industry. And if you take somebody that is not hospitality crazy, if you have people that have challenges in their lives, you need nowadays as a manager, I think, to be able to really talk about it. And open yourself up to solve the problems together.
That's true. And I remember our conversation with Vladka, that she pointed that emotional intelligence should be a part of the manager's development as well. And I believe that could help, right?
Absolutely. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to Vladka and to learn from her. I never had those educational, seminars or lessons or anything else. I have it probably part of me, because emotional intelligence is something that I think is very important. And I if there is courses like Vladka is giving, I think that every manager should at least, have the understanding that this exists and that this is part of, making a happy workplace. So yes.
So in our search for happiness in hospitality, when it comes to mental health awareness, we could probably say that managers should get educated about how to understand what mental health is in general, open a dialogue, be open to receive, open to talk, and be supportive in how people are feeling. What would you add to it?
I said it a few times. Once you start to create all the points that you just mentioned, what do? You create a safer environment for people to work in. And I don't think that this is necessarily related only to hospitality. This is universal to any business. And I have a few organizations that I can just think of now that are very hard and very openly working on making a very inclusive environment that everybody needs to feel safe, no matter who you are, no matter what you believe in, no matter what your orientation is. You need to feel safe. And if you're able to express that, hey, I don't feel well, it should be absolutely okay. And I think that it's super important. As I said before, Mauricio, I never went through this kind of schooling. It was never part of my education or hotel mind. And it hit me as well. I am one of the people that needed help at a certain moment in my life. And if I would not be able to reach out to my safety net around me or to people that I can open up to, and then suddenly you keep it inside you, and then it could turn out really, really bad.
Indeed. So thank you, Nah-Dja. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for opening your heart as well, because I know that it's a subject that touches you personally. So I know that there's so many people there out there that probably need help, need to be aware, and need to feel okay that it's okay not to be okay. There was this campaign in Australia that we always have, it's okay not to be okay. And I hope that we can help our industry a little bit to understand this and get better, get to do what we love, and serve people the best way we can.
Yes. That is, those goosebump moments, I think everybody should go through them. It's just amazing.
Nah-Dja, thank you very much. I can't wait to be searching happiness in hospitality with you again. It's a pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
Hello, lovely people, and welcome back to the Schillering Hub podcast. For this second part, I have with me Nick Saaf from the Folk Bistro here in Prague to have a chat about leadership, to have a chat about the business, and to have a chat about hospitality in general. So, Nick, thank you very much for being here.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, Nick. I went to your bistro and it's awesome. Very good food, a nice environment, and a different type of service. But before we get to there, you have actually a long history in hospitality, right? So how did it all start for you?
Well, if we go right back to the beginning, I suppose basically I grew up the son of a diplomat and an only child. So I was constantly at cocktail parties with nothing else to do but to hand around drinks and little platters of bites to eat amongst all of these professionals and diplomats and esteemed guests, and found myself kind of falling into that at a young age. But much later, I decided I was going to be an actor. My mother very wisely said, well, if you're going to be an actor, you need something to fall back on. So I managed to get onto a very famous butler course with Ivor Spencer, who's a very renowned butler for the royal family, amongst other things, and he ran this course. And that then stood me in good stead. So during my gap year, I went to work in a 5-star hotel in Amsterdam called Hotel de l'Europe. And this kind of gave me my first taste of what hospitality really was like. And it was quite different from what I thought it was going to be.
Why is that?
It was very hard work. It was something I kind of hadn't really sort of considered, that what goes into hospitality, how does the end product end up looking so good, So that's really how I kind of got started on the path. And then while I was training to be an actor, I was working in sort of hospitality as well, just to pay my way as a student. And in the end, it was clear that hospitality was definitely going to be my breadwinner, and that acting was just such a harsh world to be in, and I didn't have the guts, I guess, in the end, to push myself through the 85% unemployment rate of being an actor. So yeah, hospitality was definitely the way forward for me, and I fell into it very naturally due to my background. So I've always enjoyed that aspect of service, of being with people, working with people, and at the end of the day, it is a performance. So my acting wasn't for nothing.
Yeah, 100%.
All paid its dividend 100 times over in the service industry. So, yeah.
That's an awesome story from a diplomat family that actually learning to serve and being involved in such an environment with like important people around you, and seeing how important people is served, because that's probably one of the main challenges that we see in hospitality, is that some people just never seen a 5-star treatment. So how can you serve if you never even seen a 5-star treatment before? When you got to this 5-star property, your first one, how, because you said that was very hard and a lot different than you expected. But how was the training? How was that introduction to understand what 5-star service is?
Well, I think they expected, as I'd just come out of a butler's school, that I would be able to show them a thing or two. And in some ways I did. I was able to I actually, ironically, started at 18 writing SOPs for my department because they didn't have anything in place. And I was sitting there saying, well, we can do this better, can't we? And they said, well, if you want to do it, go for it. Which is the manager's classic response, well, go for it. You want to do that? So I did, and I kind of turned it on its head a little bit and put a real strong structure into place that I believed was the right way. And then when I put myself the rigors of my own structure, found that I was asking possibly too much of myself, I had to become a little bit more realistic in how that SOP was going to work. It was a really strong learning curve in that. And the training aspect from them was that, okay, you've done this course, so you think you know everything. And then you go into a real service environment with, a top French chef, with 2 of the top sommeliers in Holland, with all of the credentials that this, a leading property of the world hotel had. And suddenly you realize that actually you know nothing. And that's part of the learning curve, is that, you have to sort of learn the humbleness, the humility that, you really know nothing, and that you now have to start learning what you thought you knew.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting the learning experience. And that's cool that you actually had to build SOPs from scratch. How did you manage to do that?
Well, basically in my A-levels, I was doing business and economics, and I loved the work of Smith, which was all about efficiency. And so I was starting to work out how to do things more efficiently, if I spend, that extra 30 seconds or a minute to go and get that piece of equipment, how can I have that piece of equipment a bit closer to my department? Or how can I have the prep done in such a way that it'll make it more smooth when I'm in the heat of my section? And so that was all part of the process of efficiency. I love efficiency. I love finding ways just to shave off that millisecond of extra effort to actually make it smoother. So that was definitely my goal, was just to make everything more efficient, smoother, and in the long run, hopefully easier for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. And how long did you work in the industry, like in a hotel, for?
Well, that particular time was just 6 months during my gap year before I went to study acting. But after that, overall hotels, I've done probably 10 or 15 years of hotels.
Wow.
Yeah. So, that was just one part of my hotel experience, I guess.
And always around food and beverage, or did you work in other departments as well?
I did a lot of conference and banqueting as well, which I loved as well, because it was all parcel of that, being a host. I was a maître d' in one restaurant in the hotel. I loved doing private dinners where there would be 10, very high-end select guests, and I would be in charge of managing the whole operation, the setup, the service, the wine service, from beginning to end, from the meet and greet to the thank you very much, have a very good night, and putting coats back on, and off they go. And of course, the inevitable cleanup, of course. But that was really where I really enjoyed myself, and ended up also working for quite an exclusive catering agency at that time as well, which was doing, Bank of England private functions and stuff like that, which was also lots of fun. That was all similar.
So you basically trying to be an actor, got a break there, realized that hospitality really was aligned with everything that you lived until then, plus the acting part came very handy. Stayed 10 years in the industry, and you were probably having fun, as I can feel in your voice. But then you decided to change that. So what happened there?
Well, to be honest, I never stopped working in the industry. I've been doing it 25 years, I guess, now. And basically, eventually, we came to, I met my partner in England. and she's Czech, so we decided we would move to Prague. And I was able to get a job very quickly in Alcron Hotel in Prague, and was able to get into the Michelin-starred restaurant very quickly as their sommelier. So we did that for just under 5 years. And yeah, basically after that, we went I did some fine dining restaurants, and I looked for something else. I was a bit disenchanted with working for other people. I felt that I kind of peaked in a way, and all I was going to do was jump around being a sommelier in places, and I wanted to do more. I wasn't satisfied with that. I loved it. I mean, there's no question about it, but I wanted something else. I wanted to work on my own terms. So I basically came up with the idea of starting a bistro, because in Prague I was desperate to get a full English on my days off occasion, and I couldn't find one. I couldn't get a decent one. I could get Irish breakfasts in the Irish pubs, but I felt they lacked quality and refinement, and I thought I could do it better.
And so I have to just stop that, because you did better. So I've tried your full breakfast.
It's kind of you to say, isn't it? But I wanted to be my own boss, and I got a couple of friends on board to start Folk Bistro primarily as an English breakfast bistro, but also to have some fine wines available, some craft beers, good coffees, and just a place that can be like a heart of a community, and also a bit of a family on the team side, where you have a small team and you really have that familial environment with everybody in the team. So just have it on your own terms.
Yeah, perfect. And what would you say that you brought, because when we build our business, of course, we bring our energy, our DNA, we bring everything with us to that place. What would you say that is that thing that you brought from your career that is now there at the Folk Bistro?
Well, I mean, for me, definitely it was one thing that Oak has is me, which is really arrogant, but I love meeting and greeting our regulars. I love hosting people and looking after people. And for me to be able to have a place that's mine, to be able to welcome people into and own it, that was something that I brought from a whole career of doing that for guests in somebody else's place. And to be able to have a venue that was mine and to do that. But, aside from that, all of the technical aspects of, presentation of consistency and quality of product, of food and service, and all of the making the right decisions about what are you stocking, what are you presenting to your guests. Are you going to compromise on coffee? No. Why would you do that? Let's do better. Or are we just going to have free cheap wines? No, we can do better. We've got access to great wines. Let's get some good quality wines at a good price and get them in the house. Same with craft beers. So this whole aspect of being selective and knowing what you want to represent you so when your guest comes in, what are they going to appreciate about what you're giving them? And how does it reflect on your business as a whole? How does it fit into your concept of a business? Does it fit into your ethos? That's always been very important to me. So that's something I really strive to present in Oak.
That's great, and because it's hard to bring a lot of passion sometimes to a bistro. I've been to many bistros that they really struggle to have that service oriented. They want just to maybe present somehow or be efficient, but getting that service oriented, the customer oriented, it's quite challenging. And you said something that just blew like a little question to me here, because I see that there is you that you like to host, you like to welcome people, but you have a team that also needs to perform. Yeah. And normally what businesses are struggling around hospitality is to have that team consistent, is to have that team available. What's been your experience in grooming a team around you?
Well, it's interesting because my business partner is somebody I groomed in turn as well. So when I was head sommelier of Alcron, he came on board very young. He's 10 years younger than I am. And I basically took him under my wing and I said, well, look, I'll show you and I'll teach you and we can do this together. And that went so well that we ended up working together again in a fine dining restaurant after that, and then opening this business together. And then between myself and him, we now are doing the same with our team. And, you know, it's always very tricky because you take somebody. We've tended to take people who actually haven't had any experience in hospitality. And it's been really important to find the right person. And, you know, I've always said it doesn't matter if you know about the business or if you've got a long CV or something like that. What matters to me is that you care. Because if you care, then after that, I can teach you anything. But if you don't care, then I can't. There's no point in even starting. And so every staff member that has come through our doors and hasn't left has been somebody that has cared and has stayed and that I've nurtured, and or that my partner and I have nurtured in the business to care, to make it better. To, you know, you've got to keep a standard, and the way to keep a standard is to care about what you're doing, care about your product, take ownership of what you're doing, because it's not just Oak that's being represented; it's your work.
Yeah, that's a fantastic word to say. Actually, care. It's such a powerful thing, and it's being, I would say, sometimes questioned with the new Generation Z, if they do care about other things other than what they are involved with sometimes. But I believe that you probably work with a lot of younger people with you. And how, if you would tell another business owner that's listening to it today, and this person's like, wow, care, yeah, that's an important word. How would you help them to select and see if a person cares or not when they are having that first encounter?
It's about observation. You need to watch what they're doing, and it's about monitoring that. So what you really want is to see the mistake come out and then turn it back on them and say, is this what you want to get? Would you be satisfied with this? Is this how, when you go out and you had this last week that was really great, and then you give me this, would you be satisfied? Is that something that, and do you feel comfortable about giving this to somebody, knowing that they know that you did that for them and knowing that you can do better? It's not easy to create caring or something. It's not something that's, you know, you can only go so far in trying to encourage that in somebody. And maybe they get it, maybe they don't. And sometimes they do. And when they do, fantastic, you're onto a winner, because when that clicks, when they understand that the detail matters, you know, it's the old adage of the devil's in the detail. And when you can bring that home to them, that matters, that the edge of the plate isn't clean. Okay, you can get away with it, but is it good enough? Is that how you would want it to come to you?
Yeah.
And it's really about turning it back to them and saying, look, this is your work. This is you representing yourself. And are you comfortable with that?
That's awesome. And any challenges that you are facing?
Challenges. Yeah, always challenges. Yeah, we get challenges with supply lines. I mean, of course, the nature of having a British bistro in Europe outside of, in the EU outside of, after Brexit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's inevitable challenges there, getting that product, getting the produce, and keeping those supply chains good. Luckily, we've got great suppliers that, for the most part, are able to get what we need. But that's definitely one issue. I guess the other issue is the constant economic insecurity. We've had the boom and bust, as it were, almost after COVID. You know, things got better after COVID, so there was a little boom, and then suddenly inflation kicked in. And so there's been a little dip, but at the moment we seem to be coming back a bit. I mean, it's a constant the economy is constantly going to affect a business like us.
Yeah.
End of the day, it's a luxury. You can imagine you can go out for a date for dinner and you're willing to pay for that, but are you willing to go out for breakfast? It's an extra step for a lot of people, and they have to be able to afford that. Luckily, there's a culture of brunching in Czech Republic, which helps a lot, I guess. And also a lot of tourists, which is the other side of it, who are looking for a cooked breakfast and a nice cafe or a nice bistro, a nice environment to go and enjoy a leisurely Saturday or Sunday brunch. So yeah, those things are kind of the good and bad in one nutshell, I suppose.
Yeah, economics is always hard, but it's like what I take the most from your answer is that probably because your leadership style and the way that you select people to build your team, when it comes to challenges, you didn't name people. And this is like, it seems weird, but most of the time I ask this question, people is the top one thing that comes to mind. And as I see you now selecting, trying to groom a team that creates care, that's a team that care about each other, and that you are bringing them up, probably is one of the things that you can kind of not be as concerned as most of the people I talk to anyway.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think even in our conversation a few days ago, people did come up quite strongly. And since then, I've managed to find a team that seems to have clicked really nicely. So at the moment, that is now not my major concern. But yeah, certainly, yeah, people are difficult in the industry. It's becoming harder and harder to find people to work in hospitality. And this is why I find myself not taking hospitality professionals, but taking people who are willing to give it a go, and predominantly young people who are disillusioned with corporate work or that sort of style of earning their living, and giving them a different environment, a different chance. So yeah, it's always difficult, and I find the younger generation are less and less willing to do hospitality, especially because it demands being nice to people, and it demands certain working hours and a certain working structure, and it's not always on their terms. It's, you're doing things for other people, and that's less and less attractive, let's say, to younger generations. I think they want things to be done for them. Who doesn't? But
it's a really interesting point, yeah, that it's the hospitality part that probably is the hardest part for them to understand. And I didn't think like that before. Let's jump to the future a little bit, because that's the game as well, to imagine what can happen, to imagine what the future will bring, yeah? And you've been for a very long time in the industry, so you probably have a lot of insights of what has happened in the past, and seeing what we are doing now and the world, how the world is going. It's a very hard task to actually try to predict, but as a business owner, that's what we end up doing on a daily basis, yeah? Try to predict the future and keep us relevant. So if you would think what would happen to hospitality in the next 5 years, or your business, or people in general?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to say. We are obviously seeing a massive rise of AI and automation across hospitality. This is becoming, some would say, a threat, but I'm sure a lot of CEOs are seeing this as a benefit. And a lot of people also, a lot of people generally don't want the fuss. They just want what they want, and then they want to leave. Having said that, there's the other side of a lot of people actually wanting the service and not being able to find it as easily anymore. And that, I mean, you're always going to, I would like to think that high quality and good service will always have its niche. And I mean, who knows? We may find ourselves in a position where being serviced by real people will become a luxury, because, in my business, the biggest cost, people. The biggest costs are staff. And, in 5 years' time, if that continues to grow in that respect, can I afford not to automate? Can I afford not to find shortcuts that don't involve that person to do that job? And that becomes a very scary prospect, because it's kind of the antithesis of what I enjoy about our industry, because I enjoy people. I enjoy working with people, and I enjoy having a family team and us working together and sharing our successes and our failures. And so that's definitely something that's going to be very interesting to watch in 5 years. But as I say, I still believe that there will always be people ready to pay for high quality ingredients, good service, and a nice environment, a place where they feel welcomed and they feel respected and honored. And I think that gives me hope against the potential future of automation and so on. But we shouldn't be blind to the future, and we should see how AI and these future technologies can actually help us to potentially still maintain that familial environment and that familiar environment for guests, but streamline it a bit and make it more efficient, and make sure that we can, recognize our guests still, and make sure that we've got that coffee ready for them the way they like it, and maintain the identity of our guests whilst also keeping up with the times. I mean, yeah, it's a big unknown.
But it's great, because basically what you're saying is get the help of artificial intelligence and robots to do the robotic work that humans are doing, not able to be a human and facing another human and having that guest-facing interaction. Because sometimes we just get too busy doing things that it's not adding a lot of value to that human interaction. And if we can balance that, if we can get technology to help you out in the robotic work that you do, so you have more time to spend with people, it's where basically you find that gold interaction of technology and human facing. And to add to that, I don't see it as a worry. Yeah, I see just as how we gonna use it. But humans, we're always gonna have a part of the population that loves serving. And I cannot see that dying on the DNA, because it seems to be a DNA thing, I don't know. But I think that this will always be there, and we'll get people building new businesses, new business models that will provide that. Maybe it will become a luxury, just as you said. We don't know that, but we won't die. I'm sure of that.
Oh, I'm sure of that. And I always think of a coffee machine, You can go to a coffee dispenser and get a cup of coffee. And you can imagine this coffee dispenser makes the best cup of coffee on the planet. Is that as satisfying and going and getting something that's not quite as good, but going into a place where they know who you are, they say, how are you doing in the morning? You have a little bit to and fro of chit-chat. You feel warm and fuzzy inside because they know who you are, and you get your coffee the way you like it. And okay, it might not be that stellar coffee that comes from the machine, but there's something more in that cup of coffee that you got from that place that is then your local or your regular than you can ever get from that machine. And that's something that always gives me hope.
That's awesome. And Nick, if there is one last thing that I would ask, is a learning bond, something that you have so much experience and you're running your own business. So you change, you're being an actor, you change your way through life. But if you would give an advice to any other restaurant owner out there listening to this podcast today, or managers, what would that be?
I've been thinking long and hard about this, and I think I've literally just hit upon it, which would be that it's about learning to let go and to trust your team and learning to delegate properly. This enables you to have more confidence in your team and also enables you the more freedom to help them in other ways. I think that's my learning bomb is being able to let go, because that was very hard for me. It's letting go, because I wanted to be there all the time and wanted to make sure that everything's okay, and and trying to stop being a control freak, I suppose, because that doesn't help. What helps is actually having the confidence in your team and having the trust and the faith that they're going to do what you've taught them and how you would expect them to do the things, and then to relieve your own stress by delegating out the work, and in turn growing that team by delegating out that work and going, well, hey, why don't you try doing this? How it works, give it a go, and and explaining that it doesn't matter if they get it wrong, we can grow from that, and they will learn and grow and develop themselves by you actually letting go of these things and letting them take control of it. When they get ownership of things, they grow too. So that's my learning bomb.
That's a great piece of advice, Nick. Thank you for sharing. We're getting to the end of our chat, but how can people connect with you? Where's the Folk Bistro? If someone wants to work with you, how can talk to you?
Hello, theoak.cz is our email, or theoak.cz is our website. We're on Instagram as Folk Bistro Prague, and we're always open to meet new people and have people come and enjoy our hospitality and our breakfast and our coffee and our environment. It's a happy place.
It is, actually. I've been there and I confirm that. Nick, thank you very, very much for lending your time, sharing your experience with us. I really appreciate you doing that. And I wish you all the best luck. And we have a lot still to discuss in this coming year.
Indeed. Thank you very much for having me, Maurizio.
It was my pleasure. My pleasure. Schillering, thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye.